Hello there, welcome to this little podcast. I'm about to introduce my little guest here, so please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Ryan John, Joe's brother, and very excited to be here today.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about some recent sports developments. That's why he's here. He's like a sports expert. So anyways, we're going to talk about that. First, we're going to talk about the Super Bowl. So, Super Bowl was a pretty big broadcast. Very, it was very tense. You had a lot of, the first half was kind of a slog, but the second half really did perform. You know, both sides were kind of tugging back and forth. You had a lot of things going on. And what was your opinion on it? Did you think differently, or?
Yeah, I think the first half was definitely boring, very bland, just like a normal football game. But then the second half, I feel like it really started to come down to the wire and to see which team is going to be that better team. And I'm pretty sure most people know that the Kansas City Chiefs came on top in overtime.
Yeah, so what do you think the 49ers, what did they do wrong, and what did the Chiefs do right?
Well, I feel like on the 49ers on the last play on defense, they did not hold up correctly. I looked at the line, it just did not look correctly. It did not look like they would be able to stop it. And I was actually right. Right when I was looking at that play, I was like, yeah, I don't think that defense is going to even stop it. And then, actually, today, this was released by the 49ers. They actually fired their defensive coordinator because of the bad play in the Super Bowl.
That was a bit of a stretch. I feel like the defensive coordinator had been doing pretty well up until then. I don't know.
I mean, the 49ers had a very solid season. I think it's just I don't know what went through their head to relieve him of his coordinating duties, but
I don't know. I feel like that's a weird thing to do over that, over one performance. It's kind of like if you were I don't know, if you were you had a bad day at work and they just fire you just over that. It's that's weird to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I completely get that, but also I think they did it because, again, it was the biggest game of the year. Biggest game.
I mean, yeah, but
moment.
people, yeah, but I don't know, maybe I'm too lenient or whatever, but I feel you shouldn't really judge someone for just one time. I feel and this was one time during that game. A lot of the defense was very solid throughout most of the game. It was just that one time that they really fell apart. So I don't know why you would do it for one time during that game, when during that game they've had pretty solid defense, or at least what I thought.
Yeah,
I mean, do you think they had do you think they actually had rough defense, or did you think that their defense was pretty solid?
I think their defense was pretty solid during most of the game. I just feel when they were at some points they weren't up to expectations. At some points they were, because obviously they did force a fumble. And,
yeah, they definitely did that.
They forced a fumble on Isaiah Pacheco, so the running back for Kansas City, and that, part of to blame is the offense. The offense was pretty dry for the 49ers. A couple field goals, touchdowns.
The 49ers. Yeah, the 49ers offense didn't really perform up to standard, I felt like. The 49ers, their offense was, it was good in the first half. The first half was good. Yeah. The second half, it fell apart because, even, one of the stats was, 8 out of 12 in the first half.
Yeah.
And then in the second, it was 4 out of 11, which is much worse.
Yeah. He
was hitting 2/3 before, and then at the other point, he was hitting a third.
Yeah.
So it dropped by half. His accuracy, his passing rate dropped by half at one point.
Yeah, which is not good.
Yeah.
So, what I think about that is I'm thinking that, Brock Purdy, I don't think he played up to standards. I don't think Christian McCaffrey played up to standards. But again, you have to be able to play up to those standards in the biggest game of the year.
I also think it's weird because, like I said, in the first half he played well. So I don't know why he like fumbled harder in the second.
Well,
I feel like he played well in the first.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like Brock Purdy, I feel like somehow that Chiefs defense knew that if they're going to win the Super Bowl, they got to play better on defense. And then somehow that message during the 30-minute halftime somehow got through to those players and made them play better defense. And I think that more of stopped Brock Purdy.
I think that might have been the key, because I think he was definitely halted. Like, there was no one to go to. There was no one to go to. All the guys were covered.
Yeah.
And there's no way to run.
Yeah.
So now what do? You either have to throw into someone who's covered, because you can't really just throw out. That's grounding.
Yeah, at some points, yes.
Yeah, so you have to like either throw into someone who's covered, or
just take the sack.
You have to try to take the sack, or hope that some lane opens and you can run through it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Which it usually doesn't happen, because you have usually 4 defenders who are rushing you.
Yeah.
And your offensive line, their offensive line's pretty good, but at some points they were just crumbling down, and then Brock Purdy didn't know what to do, and then ended up getting a 9-6, 5-yard loss because of a sack.
That's true. So speaking of the Super Bowl, did you you ever bother watching like the Nickelodeon coverage?
You know, I would have done it. I watched it during Sweet Victory because I remember watching that SpongeBob episode. Really liked that one, but
yeah,
that definitely gives a big influence on kids, because like, especially like young children, like around the ages of like 5 to 10 maybe, because like they're seeing their favorite characters from a very popular TV show that most people know, SpongeBob. So like, I feel like when you see those characters, you have like the slime all over the field and stuff. Like
you know what's funny is that Nickelodeon, when they first pitched the idea, a lot of people were kind of like a lot of people weren't really that like great into it. They didn't really think it would work. But then after it did work, the other leagues began doing it. NHL is now doing kid-friendly games with Disney. NBA is also doing kid-friendly games with Disney. Although I think they're both using different like characters. I think NBA might be using Marvel, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. And then the NFL, I think they had like a Big Cities Green game.
Oh yeah, the NHL. Yeah, I actually watched that. Big City Greens is one of my favorite shows. It used to be.
Yeah. So, I mean, it does have a bit of an effect, but I mean, there's also an aspect to it that isn't really like that. There are a lot of people. There are like some like experts that were arguing that it's not a great thing, because a lot of the like kids are getting used to like concussions, because a lot of the plays are very like not like violent, but like, you know, they're like clashing into each other, and a lot of the you know, a lot of like the risk is a lot larger, and that they're kind of downplaying the risk. Or like intentionally or unintentionally. Do you think that's like kind of an issue, or
I don't think it's that much of an issue, because I feel like if you're a kid, I don't think you're really worrying about the concussion or anything, or whatever, or the injuries and stuff. I feel like you're just focusing on the not more of the game. I think it's like the characters, because like I think the characters like all around the game, like sometimes they have the slime out. Like,
I mean,
it all depends, because some kids obviously can have, you know, mixed things about the games, and some parents can too. But again, you have to be able to figure out, is this an appropriate thing for my child to be watching, which I think it is, because I've been watching the Super Bowl since I was like 4 or 5.
That is true, but there is an aspect to it, like especially with like a lot of these characters will like do dances or whatever when these people get like, you know, when the collisions happen, and the article at least was arguing that minimizes the risk of collisions to children and makes them think that if they get hurt, it's not a big deal. Do you think that could be an effect, or do you think it's just like maybe?
I think it's just like a little bit of like. I feel like it's just not like accurate, because I feel like in today's world, children sometimes are watching things even worse than tackling. So like it all depends on the age, but at some points like. You gotta let your kid do what they want to do. And, I mean, I get, if they're like 5, 6, even 7, I kind of get like, okay, maybe don't have them watch it, but it's the biggest game of the year. I mean,
do you
everyone
think
has it on.
Do you think that's like what they're gearing it toward, though? Like, do you think that that's the demographic that they're trying to hit, or...
I feel like they're trying to get more kids to be into football by, like, having the SpongeBob and Patrick and all that stuff on there, because it gets the kids like excited. Like, what do
you think the primary ages are of these kids? Do you think they're younger, older,
in
the middle?
It could be like any kids up to, because I still watch SpongeBob when I'm 11, but it could be any kids, because like there's some like aspects in it. I would think 6 to like 12 maybe.
That's true.
That's like that primary area.
I think it's also important to note that a lot of these, like, you know, especially when the kids are younger, it might not be the best idea, but as you get older and you start to learn about the risk of concussions and how bad they actually are, it might not be as big of a deal. So it might genuinely depend on the age of the child. It's just something that kind of interested me because I read something on it, and like it was actually like a very like weird. It was like a scientific institution that actually like had some level of like power to its name, so I wanted to like at least talk about it and mention it. But anyways, so I mean, obviously, the Super Bowl was well known for its commercials. I mean, what were your favorite ones?
I mean, some of them are just like the Doritos commercials. Some of the commercials, I was like, these are a little different.
Yeah.
And what I've actually researched is that like a 30-second Super Bowl ad costs like
$2 million, $5 million.
Yeah, it goes to like 2 to some of them $7 million, depending on, again, how much you want to pay them for that ad. But...
I mean, one of my teachers said, like, I actually asked this question, and I want you to maybe, like, try and answer it. Why would you buy a Super Bowl ad for $5 to $7 million, right?
Yeah.
When you could save a ton of money on an ad on social media that likely gets almost the same amount of impressions. Do you think that maybe Super Bowl ads and the idea of like advertising on the Super Bowl and other like huge sports games, do you think that will eventually fall out of favor? Or do you think that there'll still be a market for it?
Oh, definitely. I feel like it would fall out like soon, because like, you know, I'm here to watch the game. I'm not here to watch a 30-second Super Bowl ad on Doritos and how good their Cool Ranch flavor is.
Yeah, and I feel like there's also a level of like streaming. Streaming is becoming... I feel like more and more people, as they start to watch it on like streaming services, a lot of those people don't have the ad tiers. Yeah. So the ads become less valuable. And also, as the ads are so expensive, and I feel like you using a social media ad gets almost the exact same amount of eyeballs on your product as Super Bowl ads for a fraction of the cost.
Well,
and it could definitely get the almost exact same amount of eyeballs with a fraction of the costs. Why would you try and have a Super Bowl ad when you could instead have an ad on just your social media feeds and personalize it or whatever?
Well, I feel like why companies buy these ads is primarily because there's so many people who watch the game, and there could be even more depending on the country and where it's being broadcasted and everything. But also that when I'm watching an ad on YouTube, I try to skip it as quick as possible. Like
that actually that's something that
or
could
if
definitely
say you're
distinguish it.
on like a Facebook or Instagram, you're just gonna swipe away from it.
I mean, yeah, I feel like there's also a challenge to, a lot of the ads, they have to get your attention quickly. The Super Bowl, they don't have to get your attention that fast because you don't have an option to like scroll away from it or skip it.
Yeah.
They don't have to like instantly grab your attention. They can like breathe more, I guess.
Also, the thing about Super Bowl ads is most of the companies are companies that people already know.
Yeah.
Like Doritos,
Except
everyone knows.
The only real company that actually advertised during the Super Bowl that was unknown up until like very, very recently was like Temu. But Temu was like something that just exploded because the infinite power of the Chinese government was behind it. I mean, that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
But anyways, so from Super Bowl to there was the whole a lot of the commercials were, I feel like the weirdest commercials were like Dunkings, the one that they had with Dunkin' brands, and then they had like one with Uber Eats as well. Or they had like a bunch of people with like, I don't know. A lot of them were
some
like
of these
really
were
weird
just
ones.
like some of them were just like weird. That's like I couldn't even describe it. It was like one time I saw this Amazon ad and it was like it was so cute, but then it was just for Amazon. I didn't even realize that it was for Amazon. It was
That's
like
true.
It was like a
you
dog or
remember
something.
that Jesus thing? The Jesus ad?
Oh yes, the
it was
Jesus
like, it was
ad.
basically just a bunch of people rubbing their feet.
Yeah, it was a bunch of people rubbing their feet.
And my mom was like, "What is this? What is this exactly?"
Yeah, I was like, okay, people.
It's not even like, you'd think they're like, something to do with like religious figures. No, it's just a bunch of people getting their feet rubbed.
Exactly.
And then it just appears like, Jesus loves you or some shit. I don't know.
It's like,
it's
it's very weird, especially because, when I first saw that, I was like, okay, what are they doing? I thought it was like some religious thing.
No, I thought it was like a foot care product, like one of those like creams. One of those like creams you rub on your foot.
Yeah, but
or something like
it was a Jesus. I mean, like, why would you spend that much money just to advertise that Jesus loves you?
I don't
even. Like all religious people already know that.
I think it's to advertise their church, but like.
Well, yeah, but still,
it was really
like,
weird.
Like I see people when I'm just walking, people like holding a little bit of the Bible or something, and then they just give it to you, like you just randomly see that in like Times Square sometimes. Like,
yeah, those
you'll see
are
people
weird.
like, oh, here's an excerpt from the Bible. Here is the Old Testament. Like, it's just ridiculous. I feel like you don't need to be like doing so much just to try to get people to like go to like believe in a religion that you think is the best religion.
That's true. So from the past sports news to future sports news, did you hear about the soccer thing?
Yes.
2026 World Cup final being played at MetLife. That's kind of an insane little story that dropped actually on February 4th. That was like last week. I wanted to obviously do something for like the Super Bowl. I wanted to wait until then to like, officially talk about it. But yeah, that was something that really dropped. There was like this whole like schedule that dropped this was going back years. 2018 was when the US first won the right to host the World Cup in 2026. 2018 they voted on it. There were two bids, United States, Canada, and Mexico, joint bid from those three countries. And then Morocco kind of bid on their own. Basically a country in northwestern Africa, if you don't know where that is. So Morocco and these and US, Canada, Mexico were kind of competing to host, and the US, Canada, and Mexico bid won out. It actually won by around 2/3 of the vote. And that was how they kind of got the rights. And for a while, they were waiting on a schedule because it was supposed to come out in late 2023. Nothing was really announced. The host cities got kind of angsty because they wanted to plan for this event. And then FIFA announced that it would be announced on February 4th. And then on that day, they kind of announced the opener, which actually wasn't that surprising. The opener is going to be in Mexico.
Yeah.
So it's going to be opened in Mexico. The first game, it'll be held in Mexico City. Which actually has a lot of soccer history.
Is it Estadio Azteca?
It's the Azteca, yes, Azteca.
Yeah. The NFL actually plays there. I mean, it's being renovated right now. It'll be done in 2025.
Yes, for the World Cup.
So it'll be ready for the World Cup. But I just wondered about that because the NFL played in a game last year in Mexico City, and then they couldn't play it this year because of the renovations.
Yeah, the Azteca is a huge thing. I mean, it hosted 2 World Cups previously, hosted in 1970 and 1986. And from what I've researched into it, it's like one of the most iconic in that sport.
Yeah,
definitely. In soccer, it's like massive because it hosted 2 of these tournaments, and now I guess it'll probably host a third. There's, obviously Canada, BMO Field's gonna host the opening game for Canada.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing is, SoFi's gonna host the opening game for the US. By the way, the US is gonna play on the West Coast.
Yeah.
US national team. And then Mexico's national team will play in Mexico, and Canada's national team will play in Canada.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that one of the games is on July 4th, 2026 in Philadelphia. Oh. And also, it's on the 250th anniversary of American independence.
Oh,
and it's in Philadelphia.
That's insane.
So, yeah, that was something that
fact.
It's actually going to be a round of 16 game.
Interesting. That's actually gonna be a pretty exciting one, actually.
It's that's gonna be a pretty big.
I think to get to the
quarterfinals,
then
and then the semis, because then there's also a third place playoff. Where the 2 teams will play against, the 2 losers will play against each other, the 2 winners will play against each other in the final. The third place is actually going to be in Miami.
Oh, okay.
So that's going to be in Miami. Yeah, Hard Rock Stadium. And then the final will be played in MetLife, which was actually surprising because the final was supposed to be held in Texas. According to most of the reports.
I'm surprised it's even in MetLife. I mean, it's going to be insane for New Yorkers, I'm telling you that, because the traffic anywhere from that metropolitan area to New Jersey.
I don't know if that's going to be, I don't know how long that would extend for, but I would imagine, having that many people there, they're going to have to figure something out.
It's going to be 82,500 people
going
to
not
that
quite,
stadium.
But probably 1,700 less than that, but still, that's over 80,000.
Yeah, it's still...
it has to be over 80,000. The final stadium has to have a capacity of over 80 grand.
Yeah, and MetLife has 82,500.
Because they have to remove 1,700 because they have to widen the pitch, for soccer. Even though actually the pitch is wide enough for most soccer matches, but in the World Cup they mandate that it be a little bit wider, so they have to remove 1,700 seats on the corner. But even then, it's still over 80,000 people that are going to be showing up, and you do have to consider the fact that some people will go outside of the stadium or something. So, I mean, there's going to be a challenge in, trying to get people there, transport, getting people by bus, maybe, or, even by, by a train or something, having, just so even that there's not as many cars on the road, but, that's going to be quite the adventure, sort of.
Well, one thing I also want to talk about soccer, which is actually pretty big news for people in Spain, is that Kylian Mbappe, he already won a World Cup in 2018, almost beat Messi in 2022. He lost, but he's going to Real Madrid in 2025.
Real Madrid, is that Spain's like biggest of
One of them. Barcelona's
Spain's
also a
biggest
big
of
one,
them?
but Real Madrid is
yeah,
one of them, too.
I've heard of that. I've heard of like the biggest ones in Spain are Real Madrid, Barcelona, and then there's like one more I'm forgetting.
Maybe Man City, Man United.
Well, no, Man City, Man United are in England.
Oh.
That's in England. Paris, I think there's
Saint-Germain.
Paris, Saint-Germain in France.
Yeah.
There's like a
I'm not
I mean,
sure, but
Um,
that's
I don't know.
the only
I
news
definitely,
have.
definitely know those two. So yeah, there's a little bit of like some sports news. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for being on.
Of course.
And we'll see you next time. Make sure that you just kind of like it. You know, if you like it. You know. Maybe leave a review, follow, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.